The first night I stepped inside the power station, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't just the cold air or the way my footsteps echoed off the rusted metal walls. It was the silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It felt like it was listening, like it was waiting. My name's Mark. I'm 28, nothing special. I needed money, fast. So when I saw a job opening for a night security guard at the old Falcon Ridge power station, I jumped on it. The ad said, "Quiet job, no experience needed, good pay." That was enough for me. I didn't ask why the pay was twice the usual rate. Falcon Ridge was out in the hills, 2 hours from the nearest town. It had been shut down for over 20 years. They said it used to power half the valley, but something happened. A fire, maybe. Or maybe it was something worse. No one really knew. Or maybe no one wanted to know. I arrived just before sundown. The place was huge. Tall concrete walls, broken windows, a metal fence around the property with a half-fallen sign that said, "Authorized personnel only." I guess that included me now. Greg, the daytime guy, was already waiting by the gate. He looked tired, real tired, like he hadn't slept in days. "You sure you want this job?" he asked, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. I shrugged. I needed the money. He nodded slowly. "All right then, listen up. I'm only gonna say this once." I pulled out my phone to take notes. He gave me a hard look. "Don't write this down. Just remember it." I pocketed the phone. He continued. "You're here from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Walk the floors every hour, check the monitors in the control room, log anything unusual." I nodded. "Now, the rules." He looked around like someone might be listening. "There's only one rule, really, and I mean this with everything I got." He stepped closer. "Don't touch the red switch." I blinked. "What red switch?" He pointed to the building behind us. "Control room B, east side, bottom floor. There's a red switch on the main panel. It's labeled Main Reset. You see it, you walk past it. Got me?" I smirked. "You think I'm going to shut the place down or something?" Greg didn't smile. "No. I think if you touch that switch, you won't be leaving." I stared at him, waiting for him to laugh. He didn't. "You think I'm joking? I wish I was." Then he handed me the keys, turned, and walked off without another word. I stood there for a while, wondering what the hell I had signed up for. At 8 p.m. sharp, I opened the main door and stepped inside. The air smelled like rust and dust. The lights in the hallways flickered to life one by one as I walked through. Everything looked like it hadn't been touched in years, but somehow it still worked. The machines hummed faintly, like they were dreaming. I made my first round. Main hall, turbine room, break room, and finally, control room, B. That's where I saw it, the red switch. It sat on a silver panel full of knobs and dials. All the other switches were black, gray, or white, but that one, right in the center, was bright red, like blood. It even had a tiny handprint smudged on the glass over it. It was stupid, but I felt like it was looking at me, daring me. I shook my head and walked away. The rest of the shift was quiet. Too quiet. No animals outside, no bugs, not even the sound of wind. Just the soft buzz of the old lights and the hum of machines that weren't really on. At 11 p.m., I sat down in the control room chair and checked the monitors. There were 10 of them, black and white feeds showing different halls and rooms. All still, all empty. Then one of the screens flickered. It was Hall C, the east wing. The camera shook, just a little, like something bumped into it. I leaned forward. Nothing there. I watched for 10 more minutes. Still nothing. I told myself it was just old wiring. At midnight, I made my second round. Everything seemed the same, except the red switch. This time, the panel was humming louder, almost like it was vibrating. I didn't touch it, but I leaned in, and I swear I heard something behind the wall. It was faint, like breathing, long, slow, wet breathing. I backed away. "Nope," I muttered. "Not my business." At 2 a.m., the hallway lights flickered again, but stayed on. At 3 a.m., the monitors glitched for a second, just static. At 4 a.m., I passed by the red switch again. Now, the air around it felt colder. My fingers tingled when I walked past it, like static shock, but worse. And that's when I saw something new. Scratched into the wall next to the panel, like someone used their fingernails, were 3 words. "He waits here." My heart thudded. I stared at it. I hadn't seen that earlier. I reached out to touch the letters, but stopped. Then I turned and walked away, faster this time. At 6 a.m., I locked up, stepped outside, and waited for Greg. He pulled up exactly on time, same tired look in his eyes. "How was it?" he asked. "Fine," I lied. He nodded. "Did you see the switch?" I nodded back. "Did you touch it?" "No." He let out a slow breath. "Good." As I walked to my car, I glanced back one last time. The station sat in silence, but I felt it. The red switch was still watching me.
I told myself I wouldn't go back. After that first night, I sat in my car for a long time. I watched the sunrise through the cracked windshield and asked myself, do I really need this job? But then I remembered the bills, my landlord, my phone almost out of service. I didn't have a choice. So that night, I returned. Greg didn't say much when I showed up again. Just handed me the keys, same as before. "You remembered the rule?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Don't touch the red switch." He gave me a sharp look, then turned and left. I walked through the gate, past the fence, and back inside the station. The silence hit me again. Same as before, like the building had been holding its breath, waiting for me to come back. The lights flickered to life one by one. My boots echoed on the concrete floor, and even though I'd only been there once, the place felt familiar now, like a dream I didn't want to keep having. Everything looked the same at first, but then I noticed something different. In the main hall, just past the turbines, there's a wide glass window that looks into the control bay. Last night it had been grimy, but clear. Tonight it was smudged, like someone had dragged their hand across it from the inside. I stopped walking. The smear was fresh. It hadn't been there yesterday. "Okay," I whispered, heart already racing. Could be Greg. Maybe he touched it before leaving. I kept walking, but that thought didn't sit right. Greg hadn't been inside when I got there. I had opened the gate myself. At 9 p.m., I checked the monitors in control room A. Nothing moving, nothing strange, except one camera, hall B. There was a shape there. It looked like a shadow, but not from a person. It was too tall, too narrow, like a figure stretched straight up, pressed against the wall. I stared at it. Didn't move. I blinked. Gone. I rewound the tape. Nothing showed up on the playback. I shook my head and told myself I was tired. Maybe I was. But the hallway where that shadow was, that's the one that leads to control room B, the room with the red switch. My chest tightened. I grabbed my flashlight and headed toward that hallway. Every step felt heavier than the last, like the air around me was thickening. When I turned into Hall B, I stopped dead in my tracks. The lights were off. The only hallway in the entire building that didn't flicker on when I walked in. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, but only a little. The hallway stretched long and narrow, shadows pressed tight against the walls. I didn't want to go in, but I did. Slowly, quietly. My boots scraped the concrete. The sound echoed sharp and loud in the dark. Then I noticed it. My shadow was wrong. It moved when I moved, but a second later, like it was following me, not attached to me. I stopped. The shadow kept walking, then stopped like it realized I was watching. I held my breath. I took a step back. The shadow took 2 steps forward. My heart started pounding. I turned and ran. I didn't care about rounds or cameras or rules. I ran all the way back to the main stairwell and climbed 2 floors without looking back. When I got to the break room, I slammed the door and locked it behind me. I stood there, chest heaving, flashlight shaking in my hand. There was no sound, no footsteps following, nothing. But I knew what I saw. It wasn't in my head. I sat on the couch and told myself I was imagining things. Stress, no sleep. I go home in the morning and forget all about it. At 11 p.m., I forced myself to check the monitors again. Most screens were fine, still, quiet. But Hall B was dark, camera still down. Then I saw it. Control room B, the red switch panel. The lights were on in that room now. They hadn't been before. And standing in front of the switch, barely visible in the corner of the frame, was a figure. Still, facing the switch, not moving. I leaned closer to the screen. The figure twitched, and then turned its head, slowly, toward the camera. I jerked back. "What the hell?" I whispered. I looked again. The screen was empty. Just an empty room. The panel. The switch. Nothing else. At 2 a.m., I passed Hall B again. The lights were on now, like nothing happened. No shadow, no figure. I didn't go in. I wouldn't. Back in control room A, I made a new note in the logbook. Night 2. Strange power surges. Hall B went dark. Saw something. Possible faulty camera. Also, possible hallucination. Must be stress. Still no contact with Greg during shift hours. Red switch panel. Avoid at all costs. Just as I put the pen down, the lights flickered once, then again. A loud clang echoed from somewhere deep below. Maybe the basement. I didn't move, didn't breathe. It happened again. Clang, like metal on metal, something striking a pipe. Then, a slow scrape. I gripped the desk hard. Something was down there. At 4 a.m., I sealed off the stairwell door and stayed in the break room until dawn. When Greg came to relieve me, I didn't say anything. Just handed him the keys and walked past him. He didn't ask how my night went. He already knew.
I told myself I'd stay away from the basement. After what happened in Hall B, I wanted nothing to do with the lower floors. But the sound, that awful clanging, kept ringing in my ears. And the more I tried to forget it, the more I felt it calling me. The shift started like the others. Greg handed me the keys without a word. He didn't even make eye contact this time, just lit a cigarette and leaned against his truck like he was counting the seconds until I left. I stepped through the gate and watched him drive off into the dark. The silence wrapped around me like a thick coat. No wind, no crickets, just that deep, pulsing hum coming from somewhere inside the walls. I made my first round. Main hall, empty. Turbine room, silent. Control room A, normal if you ignored the way the monitors sometimes flickered, just for a second, like someone walked past the cameras. Then came the choice. Do I check the basement, or do I pretend I never heard the noise? My fingers traced the old map posted next to the break room. The basement wasn't on it, but there was a stairwell door near the generator corridor that led down into the lower levels. The same stairwell I'd heard the clanging from. I should have walked away, but something about the sound felt personal, like it had waited for me. So at 10:27 p.m., I took the flashlight, grabbed the spare keys, and unlocked the basement door. The air changed the moment I opened it. Colder, wetter, like the air down there had been sealed for years. The stairwell was narrow and steep. My flashlight flickered but held steady. I took each step slowly, the creak of the metal stairs echoing behind me. At the bottom, the hallway stretched out in both directions. Pipes lined the walls. Some dripped, others groaned when I passed by. There were no lights down there, just my beam. I turned left and followed the hallway deeper, past old doors marked with peeling numbers. B1, B2, B3. I stopped in front of a door marked generator room. Do not enter. Naturally, I entered. The door creaked open. My flashlight scanned the room. It was massive. Rows of old generators sat like sleeping giants, covered in dust and rust, broken gauges, old wires hanging from the ceiling, water dripping from somewhere in the back. But the worst part? One of the generators was humming. Just one. The rest were cold and dead. But this one was alive. My light fixed on the front panel. The digital display was still glowing, faint but steady. Numbers shifted like it was calculating something. But this station had no fuel, no power source. Greg told me that the place was dead tech. No one maintained anything down here. So why was this machine awake? I stepped closer. The panel read, active, cycle, 3 of 11, door sealed, watching. My skin went cold. I stepped back. What cycle? What door? I whispered. The generator made a sound, a low metallic groan, like it was answering me. I turned toward the exit, but stopped. A shadow moved across the far wall. It wasn't mine. It was tall, thin, and fast. I spun around, flashlight trembling in my hand. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. Just that low hum. I walked fast toward the door. Just before I reached it, I heard a sound that stopped me cold. Breathing. Slow, wet breathing. Right behind me. I turned around in one sharp motion. No one there. But on the floor, where I had just stood, was a set of wet footprints. Bare feet. Long toes. Spread far apart. I didn't wait. I ran. I ran down the hallway, flashlight bouncing, heart slamming in my chest. I didn't stop until I reached the stairwell. I slammed the door shut behind me and locked it. But even as I stood there, panting, I heard the clang again. 1 strike, 2, 3, and then silence. I didn't go back down. Not that night. Instead, I sat in the break room and tried to steady my breathing. I pulled out the old worker logbook I'd found before and flipped through the pages again. This time, I found something I had missed. A loose page folded into the back cover. It was stained, ripped at the corners, but the writing was clear. If the generator comes back online, it means the seal is weakening. Do not go down there alone. Do not speak to it. It learns. It adapts. It listens. I stared at that last word. Listens. My eyes drifted to the vents above me. They were still. But for the first time, I noticed the thin wires that ran along the ceiling, into the walls, into the ducts, like veins. Were they always there? Back in the control room, I checked the monitors again. Basement cams were offline. But the hallway outside the stairwell? There was something sitting by the door. I leaned in closer to the screen. It was blurry, hard to see.
but it looked like a figure crouched by the basement entrance. Arms too long, head tilted sideways. Watching. Waiting.
I didn't sleep when I got home. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure crouched by the basement door. Still, patient, waiting. That morning, I tried to call Greg. No answer. I sent him a message. "Hey, have you seen anything down there? Basement camera's offline." No reply. I sat by my window for a long time, thinking. I should have quit, but something about the generator's display wouldn't leave my head. Cycle 3 of 11. What did it mean? And why was I the one seeing it? That night, I showed up 10 minutes late. Greg was already gone. No truck, no note. Just the keys, left hanging on the hook by the gate. That was the first night I felt truly alone out there. No backup, no safety, just me and the station. I stepped inside. The hallway lights flickered like usual, but now the air felt heavier, like the station had noticed me. I started my rounds. I skipped the basement. I wasn't ready. Everything upstairs looked the same, except the break room. That's where I saw it. The photo board on the back wall. It had always been dusty, filled with old group shots of workers from years ago. Most of the faces were faded, hard to see. But now, one face was circled in black ink. A man in a gray uniform. No name tag, no smile, and no eyes. Just two blank spots where they should have been. Not scratched out, just gone. Like they were never there to begin with. I stared at it, heart beating faster. Who did that? Why? I took the photo off the board. The back had something written on it. He watches from the static. That's when I heard the noise. The static. It came from Control Room A. The monitors. I rushed down the hall and stepped inside. Every screen was filled with white noise, except one. Hallway C. And in that screen, the man from the photo, standing perfectly still in the middle of the hallway. Same gray uniform, same face, no eyes. My breath caught in my throat. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there, head tilted slightly, like he was listening. Then, slowly, he lifted his hand. Not a wave, a point, right at the camera, right at me. The screen flickered, then went black. I backed away from the monitor, heart racing. A loud click echoed from down the hallway. A door, unlatching. Control Room B. I turned. The door was open. I didn't open it, and no one else was here. Not going in there, I whispered. But part of me wanted to know, was the red switch still there? Had someone touched it? I stepped closer slowly. The hallway was darker than before, colder. I reached the door and peeked inside. The room was empty. No figure, no switch. Wait, what? I stepped in. The panel was gone. The entire wall where the red switch used to be was just a metal plate now. No buttons, no lights, nothing. Like it had never existed. I stumbled back out, confused. Back in Control Room A, the monitors had changed again. Camera 7. Break room. The photo I'd taken off the wall was back on the board, still circled, still eyeless. I know I took it down. I had stuffed it in my pocket. I reached for it, but it was gone. My pocket was empty. The photo had returned itself, like it wanted to be seen.
At 1:33 a.m., I started hearing whispers, not voices, not words, just breathy sounds through the vents. I followed the noise down the east hall. Every step made my spine tighten. The lights overhead began flickering, then dimmed. At the far end of the hallway, I saw a figure. The same figure. Still. Watching. This time, I stepped forward. One step, then two. The figure didn't move. I raised my flashlight. The beam hit him directly. No eyes, just smooth skin where the sockets should be. But somehow, I knew he was looking at me. Then, he opened his mouth, and from that black hole came only one sound: static, loud and sharp like a radio screaming. I dropped the flashlight. It clattered on the floor. And when I looked back up, he was gone. The hallway was empty. I grabbed the light and ran. Back to the break room. Back to safety, or so I thought. Because on the table, in front of my chair, was a new object. A tape recorder. Old, dusty, covered in grime. But when I pressed play, the static stopped, and a voice spoke. You saw him. Now he sees you. Then, click. End of tape. I stared at the recorder for a long time. I didn't touch it again. At 4 a.m., the monitors glitched one final time. Every screen filled with static. Then, frame by frame, they all showed the same figure, standing in each room at the same time. No eyes, no expression, just watching. And in one of the screens, in the corner of the break room, was a second me, sitting in the chair, staring at the tape, smiling.
When I got home after seeing him, the man with no eyes, I didn't even take off my boots. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the tape recorder I'd carried out of the station. I swore I'd left it behind, but somehow it was in my bag. I didn't play it again. I shoved it in a drawer, buried it under old bills, and told myself it wasn't real. But the thing is, it was real, and it followed me back. That night, when I returned to the station, I felt it the second I stepped through the door. The air wasn't just heavy, it was charged, like the walls knew I was keeping something from them. I started my round like usual, but every step made me more uneasy. The shadows clung to the corners tighter than before. The hum of the walls was louder, almost like a low growl. I didn't want to avoid Hall B and Control Room B altogether, but the monitors showed something strange. Camera 4. Locker room. A door was ajar. It had been locked and sealed every night before. I didn't want to check it, but the longer I stared, the more the door seemed to inch open, wider, frame by frame. By midnight, I gave in. The locker room was dark, stale, and damp. My flashlight cut across rows of rusted metal lockers. Most were closed, covered in grime, but one stood wide open. Inside was a uniform, folded neat like someone had just left it. Next to it, an old photograph. A group of workers. The same board I'd seen in the break room, but younger, their faces clear this time. And there he was, front row, the man with no eyes. Only here, he had them. But someone had drawn a black X over them. On the locker floor sat something else, a cassette tape. This one was marked in black marker, playback only after shutdown. I picked it up. My hands shook. I didn't have a cassette player, but the station did. There was one in the corner of Control Room A. I don't know why I pressed play. Maybe I thought it would explain everything. Instead, it made things worse. The tape crackled alive, distorted at first. Then a man's voice broke through, tired, shaking.
If you're hearing this, then the seal is failing again. Static. You have to understand, the red switch isn't what it looks like. It doesn't start power, it doesn't shut anything down. It keeps it in. That thing, the one in the wires, it needs you to press it. It feeds when you press it. The voice grew frantic. I thought I could stop it. I thought I could seal it away. But once you see it, it sees you back. And once it sees you, you're already part of it. Screaming, loud, raw. Then silence. The tape cut off. I sat there, hands frozen on the recorder. That's when the monitors changed. Every screen turned black. Then, one by one, words appeared. Locker. Tape. Press. Cycle 4 of 11. I dropped the recorder. It hit the floor and popped open, the tape spilling out like black ribbon. And in the static of the monitors, I saw him again. The man with no eyes. Closer this time. Not standing in a hallway, not in a photo, but right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Just the hum of the walls. Just the silence pressing closer. I stuffed the tape back into the locker, slammed it shut, and ran out. But when I got back to the control room, the tape recorder was already there, waiting on the desk.
I couldn't anymore. That night started quiet. Too quiet. I kept waiting for the usual hum in the walls, but even that was faint. The silence felt wrong, like it was building towards something. At 2:03 a.m., it happened. The lights went out. Every bulb in every hallway gone in a blink. I froze. The hum of the machines died too. For the first time since I'd been here, the station was truly silent. Then, my flashlight flickered. I tapped it hard until the beam came back. The cone of light shook with my hand as I swept it across the control room. Empty. But the monitors weren't off. They glowed faint green. Not video, just text. All cycles break. The door opens. Run. My chest tightened. Run where? I whispered. The flashlight dimmed again. From the hallway, I heard something move. Not footsteps, something heavier. Crawling. The sound scraped against metal and concrete. Slow, intentional. I swallowed hard and pressed myself against the wall, holding the flashlight tight like a weapon. The sound grew closer. I couldn't stay in the control room. I had to move. I bolted into the hallway. My beam cut across walls and pipes, but the dark seemed to swallow it whole. Then I heard it. Breathing. Long. Wet. Right behind me. I ran. My boots hammered the concrete as I sprinted toward the stairwell, but when I threw the door open, it wasn't stairs. It was another hallway, one I'd never seen before. My heart slammed. The station had changed. The walls here were tighter, pulsing faintly like veins. Wires hung like vines from the ceiling, twitching when my light passed over them. I stumbled back, but the stairwell door had vanished, just a wall of steel where it should have been. I didn't have a choice. I walked forward. Every step echoed too loud, bouncing down the hall like something was mocking me. Then, the lights above flickered, just once, and for that fraction of a second, I saw it. A shape, crawling along the ceiling. Arms too long, skin pale and slick. Its head twisted, facing me upside down. By the time my flashlight steadied, it was gone. But I knew it wasn't gone. It was waiting. I moved faster, almost running. At the end of the hall, I saw a door. Big, rusted, painted with peeling yellow letters. Generator. My chest tightened. No, not again. But before I could turn back, the lights went out completely. Darkness, thick and absolute. My flashlight sputtered, gave one last weak beam, and died. I was blind. Then came the whispers. Not one voice, many, dozens, maybe hundreds, all layered over each other, coming from the walls, the vents, the wires. They spoke in tones I couldn't understand, words twisted into static. But one phrase came through, clear, cold. Press it. I stumbled forward in the dark, hands outstretched. My fingers brushed the metal door. I yanked it open and stepped inside. The generator room, the one I swore I wouldn't return to. But now it was alive. Every machine glowed faint red. The hum was deafening. The floor shook with power. And in the center, standing still between the rows of generators, was him, the man with no eyes. He didn't move, didn't breathe, but the air warped around him like heat rising from asphalt. I pressed myself against the wall, terrified to blink. Then, with a slow, jerking movement, he lifted his hand and pointed. Not at me, to the far wall, at a new panel, a red switch glowing like fire. And from somewhere behind me, closer than ever, came the sound of something crawling toward me, fast. I had two choices: face the thing in the dark, or press the switch. My hand shook as I reached forward. The whispers grew louder, the crawling scraped closer, the switch pulsed brighter, like it was alive. I told myself I wouldn't do it, but my fingers brushed the glass, and the world shuddered.
I didn't mean to. That's the truth. But when I felt the thing crawling closer, its breath sliding down my neck, my body moved on its own. My hand slammed the glass case open, and before I could stop myself, I pressed the red switch. The sound it made wasn't mechanical. It wasn't a click or a hum. It was a scream. The walls vibrated with it, a deep, endless wail that shook the air in my lungs. The entire station came alive, every pipe and wire convulsing like they were veins pumping blood. The lights returned, but they weren't the same. They weren't white. They were wrong. Too bright, too sharp. Every edge of the room glowed with a sickening clarity, like I was seeing more than I was meant to. I spun around, but the crawling thing was gone. So was the man with no eyes. The room was empty, but I wasn't alone. The red switch pulsed on the wall behind me, glowing faint like a heart, and in the generator display, the numbers shifted. Cycle 4 of 11, door unlocked, observing. I stumbled backward, shaking my head. No! No, no, no! The door behind me burst open. The stairwell was there again, but it wasn't right. The stairs didn't go down anymore. They went up, way up, endless, the kind of height that makes your stomach twist. I turned back to the monitors in Control Room A, but when I found them, they weren't showing the halls anymore. They were showing me standing in the generator room, me staring at the switch. But in the monitor version of me, I wasn't scared. I was smiling. I stumbled back, shaking, and nearly fell over the chair. My reflection in the black glass of the screen blinked slower than I did. Then it whispered, "You let it out." The screens flickered. Now they showed the hallways again, but changed. Hall B was longer than it should have been, stretching into black. Hall C showed dozens of doors where there used to be none, each one slowly opening. The break room camera showed a figure sitting at the table. Not me, not Greg, something else. It was hunched, twisted, its head bent backward, face blurred like static, and it was watching the door. My door. I grabbed the radio, but all that came through was more static. Voices layered over each other, all whispering the same phrase. Cycle 4, Cycle 4, Cycle 4. The stairwell groaned, the steps shifting like they were breathing. I ran, up the stairs, 2 at a time, heart hammering. My flashlight flickered with every step, but the light above me never got closer. Then, in the beam, I saw it. Myself, standing 3 flights above me, staring down, not moving, not breathing, just smiling. I froze, and the other me lifted his hand. He held something, a tape recorder. He pressed play, and my own voice filled the stairwell. If you pressed it, you've already lost. The sound grew louder, echoing all around me, until I couldn't tell if it was coming from the recorder, or the walls, or my own chest. I stumbled down the stairs, back into the generator hall. But the switch was gone. The wall was smooth metal again, like it had never been there. The hum in the pipes was deafening now. The logbook on the desk had flipped open on its own, its pages fluttering like wings. Words scrawled themselves across the paper, jagged and frantic. Welcome to the cycle. You are not alone. The air turned icy. My breath came out in clouds, and then I felt it. A hand, cold, thin, gripping my shoulder. I spun around, no one there. But in the reflection of the control panel glass, I saw it. A face behind me, grinning. No eyes, just teeth. And the whisper again, closer than ever. Keep watching.
The night after I pressed the switch, the station didn't feel abandoned anymore. It felt alive. Every wall, every pipe, every wire carried a pulse, a rhythm, like I was inside something breathing. The first sign came at 9:14 p.m. I was in control room A, staring at the monitors, too scared to blink. Then I heard it. Deep metal bangs echoing through the walls. Boom, boom, boom. At first I thought it was just pressure in the pipes, old machinery shifting, but then the water started running. The turbines hadn't moved in decades. There was no fuel, no power source, yet the gauges flicked on, the valves trembled, and dark water spilled into the channels. Not clear water, black, thick. It oozed through the grates like tar, coating the floor in slick trails. I followed the sound down the east corridor. The pipes along the wall shuddered, bulging outward like something was crawling inside. My flashlight caught it, something slithering behind the metal. Long, coiled, pushing through as if the pipes were too small to contain it. Bang! One section burst. A wave of black water gushed out, spraying across the hallway. I stumbled back, choking on the smell. Rotten, metallic. And in the spray, I saw it. Not just water. Something else moved in it. Limbs, pale, writhing, pressed tight against the metal as if trying to claw its way free. I ran, back toward the control room. But the monitors were worse. Every screen showed the pipes, each camera shaking as something huge slammed through them. One camera flickered to static, then came back on, showing the break room. The sink faucet was running. The water there wasn't black. It was red. I gagged, turning away. But the sound followed me. Drip. 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 I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the logbook, desperate for answers. More words had appeared since last night.
The thing in the pipes is not the station. It is older. It came through when the seal broke. It drinks. It remembers. Do not follow the water. But then, underneath that, it already knows your name. My throat closed. From the vents above me, I heard it. A voice. Not whispers this time. Clear. Loud. Mark. I froze. It said my name again, stretching it out, wet and gurgling. Mark. The pipes above me groaned, water dripping faster. I grabbed the flashlight and ran for the stairwell. Halfway down, the walls shook violently. One of the main pipes ruptured, spraying black sludge across the steps. The liquid sizzled on the concrete, and something inside it moved. A hand. White, boneless, reaching out from the stream. I slipped, slammed into the railing and scrambled upward, but the hand clawed at my boot, dragging me down. I kicked free, my heel connecting with soft flesh. It burst like a water balloon, spraying black fluid across the stairs. I didn't look back. I slammed the stairwell door and pressed my weight against it. But the pounding came anyway. Bang, bang, bang. Like something ramming the door from the other side. The lights flickered. On the monitors, every camera showed the same thing now. Water. Hallways flooded, doors bursting, the black liquid pouring through every room, climbing higher, swallowing everything. And in the middle of it, shapes. Dozens. Hundreds. All crawling out of the flood. Pale arms, twisted bodies, faces stretched too long, eyes black and empty. They crawled along the floors, dragging themselves toward the cameras, smearing trails of darkness behind them. I stumbled back, heart slamming in my chest. That's when I heard it again. The voice in the vents. Closer now. Don't run, Mark. Drink. The faucet in the break room screeched open on its own. Red liquid poured into the sink, spilling across the counter. I turned away, gripping the desk. My reflection in the monitor was wrong again. It wasn't me staring back. It was something pale, with eyes as black as the water. And when it smiled, black liquid dripped between its teeth. I pressed my hands over my ears, trying to shut it out. But the sound was inside me now. Every pipe, every vent, every faucet, calling my name.
I don't know how long I sat there in the control room, watching the monitors fill with black water. Minutes, hours, time didn't feel real anymore. When I finally looked at the wall clock, it was stuck at 2:33 a.m. I thought it was broken, but when I checked again 10 minutes later, it still said 2:33. And the worst part? My watch said the same. So did the clock on the monitors. Everywhere I looked, the numbers froze. 2:33. No seconds, no movement. Just that moment, stretching on forever. At first, I thought maybe I'd lost track, that maybe I'd blacked out. But then I saw something impossible. On the monitor for Hall B, I saw myself. Not in the past, not on a recording. I saw me, right now, walking the hall, flashlight in hand. But I was also sitting here,
in the control room. I blinked hard, shook my head, looked again. The figure on the monitor stopped walking, turned toward the camera, and smiled. My stomach dropped. I stumbled back from the desk. The logbook fell to the floor, its pages flipping on their own. The words across them shifted, scrawling fresh in black ink. Stop watching. Start running. I slammed the book shut. My hands were shaking. I had to leave. I rushed to the main exit doors, my boots pounding the concrete, my flashlight beam cut through the still air. The big steel doors loomed ahead. I shoved them open and found myself stepping back into the control room. Same monitors, same humming pipes, same logbook on the floor. I froze. My breath caught. I tried again, different hallway this time. Same thing. Every exit, every stairwell, every door I opened brought me back to the control room. It was a loop. The station wasn't letting me out. The monitors flickered again. Now every camera showed something new. Me. In every hallway, every room. Dozens of me. Walking, standing, smiling. Each one a second out of sync, like echoes of myself, looping in time. I staggered back, covering my face. "No, no, this isn't real," I whispered. But the whispers came back, from the vents, the pipes, the wires, layered over each other like a chorus. "It's real. It's forever." The lights above me pulsed. The hum of the walls grew louder, shaking the floor. And then I heard it. A laugh. Low, wet, coming from the monitors. I looked up. One of the versions of me on the screen wasn't smiling anymore. He was laughing, head tilted back, mouth wide, black water spilling between his teeth. And when he looked at the camera, his eyes weren't mine. They were deep, endless voids. I stumbled back until I hit the wall. The clock above me still said 2:33, but now the second hand started moving. Backwards. Tick, tick, tick. The room spun. My head pounded. I grabbed the radio. "Greg, if you can hear me, please get me out. Something's wrong. I can't get out." Static answered me. Then a voice. Not Greg's. My own. "You already left." The radio cracked, then fell silent. I dropped it. My knees buckled. I couldn't breathe. The logbook on the floor opened again, more words bleeding across the paper. "Time is broken. You are inside the cycle. You will watch until it ends." I tore the page out, crumpled it, threw it across the room. But when I looked up at the monitors, that same page was already pressed against the glass from the inside. One of the versions of me was holding it, grinning. And in the reflection of the monitor glass, I wasn't sitting alone anymore. Someone else was in the chair beside me, leaning close, breathing.
I don't know how long I sat frozen in that chair, staring at the reflection in the monitor, because I swear there was someone sitting right next to me, not moving, not blinking, just breathing. I didn't want to look directly at it. My peripheral vision caught pale skin, a hunched shape, and a face that didn't line up right with its body. But when I finally forced myself to glance, the chair was empty. The reflection had lied. Or maybe the reflection was telling the truth, and my eyes were the ones lying. I shoved myself away from the desk and stumbled into the hallway. The walls felt closer than before, the pipes thicker, dripping black sludge onto the floor. My boots squelched with every step. I tried the stairwell again, praying it wouldn't loop. This time, it didn't, but I almost wished it had, because at the bottom,
I found myself in the old generator room, the one I promised I wouldn't return to. It was different now. Every monitor on the far wall flickered to life, glowing faintly in the dark. But they weren't showing hallways or rooms anymore. They were showing me. Every angle, every movement, live. I raised my hand and watched 20 different screens echo it a second later. I staggered back, my stomach turned. This wasn't surveillance. This was study. I wasn't the watcher. I was the experiment. The hum in the walls rose, louder, higher, until it rattled my teeth. The generators pulsed with red light, cycling like beating hearts. Then came the whispers again, but not from the vents this time, from the monitors themselves. Closer, closer, don't stop now. My hand shook. I clutched the flashlight tighter, sweeping it across the room. That's when I saw the fuse box in the corner. It was half open, wires spilling out like intestines. Something dripped from inside. I stepped closer. My light caught it. Teeth. Human teeth. Jam-packed between the wires, pressed into the circuits, clicking softly like they were chewing. I gagged, stumbling back. The monitors all shifted at once. Now they weren't showing me, they were showing shapes. Dozens of pale silhouettes pressed against glass, faces distorted, skin stretched too tight, watching me, waiting. And then one of them moved. It pressed its hand against the inside of the screen. The glass cracked. I screamed, stumbling back as a pale finger poked through the surface, like the monitor wasn't solid at all. The others followed, hands, arms, faces pressing against the screens, black mouths opening in silent screams. I bolted for the exit, but the door was gone again, just a wall. I spun around, chest heaving, flashlight beam trembling across the room. I wasn't alone. Figures stood between the generators now, dozens of them. Not workers, not people. Shadows with bodies. Pale, eyeless faces staring, heads tilted in unison. They didn't move, didn't breathe, just studied me. The hum in the walls shifted into a rhythm, not random, a pattern, like counting, like ticking. And in the logbook on the desk, fresh words burned across the page in jagged black. He waits behind the door. You are the rat. Run the maze. I dropped the book and backed away. The figures didn't move. Not until the lights flickered. When they came back on, they were closer. Right at the edge of the generator rows. Still not touching me, but close enough for me to smell the rot dripping off their skin. I snapped. I screamed into the dark. What do you want from me? The monitors all went black. Then one screen lit up. It showed me, sitting in a chair, strapped down, eyes wide, mouth sewn shut with black thread. The image twitched, distorted. Then it smiled, and I felt it, a hand on my shoulder again. This time, it didn't let go.
The hand gripped my shoulder tight. Cold, thin, stronger than it looked. I spun around, ready to fight, to tear myself free. But no one was there. The grip stayed anyway, invisible but real. I could feel it pressing into bone. The figures between the generators didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. And in that silence, I finally understood. I wasn't guarding the station. The station was guarding me, or whatever I had let out. The hum of the walls rose until the floor shook. The monitors all lit up at once, every screen flashing with the same words. Cycle 5 of 11. Subject observing. Subject recorded. I staggered back, my breath coming fast. No, I'm not your subject. I'm not staying here. I bolted for the exit. And this time, the door was there. A metal door where no door had ever been. On it, scratched deep into the steel, was my name. I froze. My skin went cold. I didn't want to open it, but the hum pressed harder, and the whisper came again, so close it felt like it was inside my skull. Open it. My hand shook as I reached forward. I gripped the handle and pulled. Behind the door wasn't the hallway. It wasn't the stairwell. It wasn't the outside world. It was my apartment. Same walls, same couch, same cracked window. I stepped inside, blinking hard, trying to make sense of it. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. The clock on the wall ticked. 2:33 a.m. My chest tightened. I turned slowly back toward the doorway, but the power station was gone, just my apartment stretching behind me. I dropped into the chair at my desk, shaking, trying to convince myself I was free. That's when the monitors flickered on. Not in the station. In my apartment. One screen, then another, then a wall of them sprouting across the living room. Each one showed me inside the station, walking the halls, checking the red switch, running the maze, all at once. Every version of me, trapped in different moments. And then I saw the worst one. Me, sitting in this chair, right here, right now, watching. I leaned closer to the screen. The other me leaned closer too, and whispered in my voice, "You pressed it. Now you watch." The hum filled the room again, louder, louder, until the walls shook and the lights burst. I tried to cover my ears, but it wasn't sound anymore. It was inside me. I looked up at the nearest monitor. The man with no eyes stood there right behind the other me. He lifted his hand and knocked on the glass. Once, twice, 3 times. I stumbled back, but there was nowhere to go. The screen stretched across every wall now, and in all of them, I was there, screaming, running, watching. No way out, because the truth finally sunk in. I was never supposed to leave. Not me, not anyone. The station wasn't haunted. It was a trap, a cycle. And by pressing that switch, I became part of it. Now, I'm the one sitting here. Now I'm the one being studied. Now I'm the one who watches. So if you're listening to this, if you ever see a red switch, don't touch it. Walk away. Because once you press it, it presses back. Outrow, reflection. I shouldn't have touched the switch. I should have listened, but I didn't. And now I don't know if I'm warning you, or if I'm just making sure you walk into the trap too. If you made it this far, maybe it's already too late.